Cowboys with two Cowboy greats. Maybe give us some of their insight to what they think's going on. Starting out with some of these coaching carousel changes and such. And Drew, the first thing I want to ask you is, basically bringing in Scott Linehan from Detroit. Now we're going to have Romo's going to have the third play caller he's had in 3 years. And then, of course, taking Callahan, and he's still the offensive coordinator for the run game. How do you think that's going to affect the offense?
I really don't know. I do know it's going to be very difficult for Jason Garrett to try to manage that, and keep everybody happy and, keep them all focused. And I think the demotion of Callahan, I think he's professional enough to understand, he's still got to do a good job, even if he wants to leave here and find another job. So he still has to perform. And he did a very good job with the offensive line. I remember coming or going into training camp, we were talking early in the season as well about the offensive line, the concerns there. They brought in Brian Waters, to help solidify that because we really needed him in that situation. But before the season was over, no one's talking about the offensive line in a negative way, only in a positive way. So he's done a good job with the offensive line. So now with his focus solely on that, maybe things will be that will continue. But now you got to mesh the run game, the passing game. The biggest criticism about us with the offense is that we pass the ball too much and don't run it enough. And that's what Linehan's background is, throwing the football. The only one I think threw it more than the Cowboys or Denver was Stafford up there in Detroit, where Linehan was the offensive coordinator. So Garrett's got to manage this. The thing I hope what he does is puts his fingerprints on it. I know you got Linehan here with a philosophy, you got Callahan here with a philosophy, but this has got to be Jason Garrett's philosophy. If there's anything that he's supposed to do well, that's with offensive football. That's how he got in the position to be a head coach, by being an offensive coordinator and then a head coach. So he's got to manage that situation, and he's got to let the players know that he is still the man in that situation.
Well, I thought the one difference, obviously Linehan and Garrett have a past relationship when they were down in Miami.
Right.
And really, I guess the one thing that I noticed from Linehan's passing offense compared to Jason Garrett's passing offense is that, and I think that Dez might be excited about this, is the fact that Linehan tends to go downfield deep a good bit more than we have recently.
Absolutely.
So I think Dez will be excited about that if Linehan's able to install that.
He should be. Look at what he's done for Calvin Johnson. Everybody knows he's the top receiver in the NFL, and he still gets touches like a top receiver is supposed to, despite the coverage that he gets. So Dez should be happy, that they're going to throw the football downfield a little more, but he also should be happy that he's going to come up with ways to get Dez open. Sometimes we've seen Calvin Johnson in the slot, line up right off the tight end, all kinds of different formations to get him the football. And I think he'll bring that to the offense and help Dez in situations where he can get the football despite the coverage that he's getting.
Well, and let's now, Randy, let me ask you some of the same, similar type situations. Obviously, Monty Kiffin has been moved from the defensive coordinator. He's going to be an assistant head coach. Jason Garrett says he's basically going to be there to mentor the other coaches. And now you've got Rod Marinelli, who has a great background, and he's promoted to defensive coordinator. What do you think the changes are going to be there, positive or negative?
Well, I don't think it's philosophy with the Cowboys defense that needs to improve. I think it's talent. Just like we're talking about. You got to have talent. You got to have guys on that front that can put pressure on the quarterback. Because in this league today, if you can't pressure the quarterback the way the rules are, you can't touch these receivers. The quarterback's any good at throwing the football, they're gonna put up some yardage on you. So with all the injuries we've had over the last couple of years, I don't think Monty Kiffin and his defense really gets a fair shake because, they're running guys in and off the street that you don't even know. The next week, you don't know what the starting lineup is. Their best pass rusher, DeMarcus Ware, has been hurt for the last couple of years. They lose Ratliff. Selvey came in and did a good job, but I think that pass rush has got to be something that they address in the offseason, because if you don't have a pass rush and you don't have a defensive front that can stop the run, the rest of it's going to fall apart sooner or later.
Drew was making a point about this has got to be Jason Garrett's team. Jason's got to put his stamp on it. And right before or during the break, Randy, you and I were talking about Tom Landry and just how he set the tone. Tell us a little bit about that. And then also, if you can talk a little bit about, go back to your college career. What a head coach has to do. Both of y'all, Drew, you were a quarterback in high school, and Randy, you were a running back as well, right? And
running back when I started off,
yeah. So tell us a little bit about that and how just that coach coming in and saying, okay, look, I've got a beast out here that's playing for me, but I'm going to move him to this position, and then move into whenever y'all both entered the NFL, where how Coach Landry ended up really setting the tone and saying, this is my team and this is the way it's going to be.
Yeah, go ahead, Randy.
Well, I don't want to compare Jason Garrett to Coach Landry. That's not a fair. He's in a whole different arena, a whole different scenario. And I think Jason Garrett is a good coach. But like we're saying, you'd like to see Jason come in there and take control of the thing. He's the head coach, and you'd like to come in there and see him, take control of the situation. And, he takes a lot of heat for the play calling. He takes a lot of heat for the clock management. He takes all the heat because he's a head coach. But, if I was the guy taking all the heat, well, then it would be my decisions. Then when I talk to people, I would say, hey, yes, I made this decision, and this is why it worked, or this is why it didn't. So Jason Garrett's in a tough spot, I think. It's a tough job being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. That's a tough job, and I wish him well, and I'm a fan of his.
Yeah, I am too. He's got a long way to go, but I think he's more in charge now than he ever was. I think Jerry has got to relinquish some of that and understand that Jason has to have that type of authority for his team to be successful. But, excuse me, guys, I played 2 years at quarterback at Tulsa and then changed to wide receiver. So I came into the NFL as a wide receiver, but I was very green. And the passes I was catching at Tulsa, I could snag with one hand. I get now catching passes from Roger Staubach. And my first mini camp here in Dallas, we used to have mini camp. The draft was early February. So after that, they bring in rookies to mini camps. And Roger was out there, and Craig Morton and Jack Cannon throwing. And, man, I was dropping everything. And what I was always noted for was my hands. Sure. Baseball player. I went to Tulsa to play baseball. So, I get to the Cowboys. Anyway, I had to go back and lift weights and do all that to adjust. So most of my adjustment was not from adjusting to the new position, but adjusting what it takes to play that position. And because I always wanted to be a wide receiver. And I knew I had to get stronger. I knew I had to develop my hands to make them stronger. I knew I had to work on my pass routes, and that's why, once I signed with the Cowboys as a free agent and that school year ended, I packed everything I had, me and my wife at that time, and packed everything we had in the Volkswagen and moved to Dallas. And I lived right next door to the Cowboy practice field. And Roger would show up, and I would always show up. He would say, how can you always hear what I'm here? I said, well, I'm looking out the window, and I hear you pulling the parking lot. And I would put on my stuff and run over to that practice field and run routes with him. And, eventually that paid off for me. But, and Coach Landry recognized that. See, Coach Landry had a system that it just didn't depend on talent. I'm a 4'6" guy. I weighed 170 pounds. I played at Tulsa. I caught 55 passes in 2 years at Tulsa, you know? But because his system didn't depend on talent the 40 times, how high you can jump, but it depended on other things like heart, character, you know, that type of thing. He wanted to find those kind of players. And we had a team of those. Sure, we had Randy White's #1 draft picks, but we had a lot of players. Charlie Waters was a quarterback in college. Rayfield Wright was a tight end, you know, and Jethro Pugh, Elizabeth City College, they found players. Bob Hayes, a track guy, thank you, you know. They found players that Landry wanted to help fit his system.
Sure.
And now he can get the player, he could coach him up. He can make you, because the system, if you learn how to play in the system, you had a chance to be successful.
You know, that's a great point. So we're sitting with a free agent back when the draft was, what, 12 rounds, 13 rounds?
17, sir.
17 rounds.
452 players that year, and nobody drafted Drew Pearson.
There you go.
All right,
There you go.
I'm almost over that. I'm not as upset about it. Randy, watch out.
I can tell. And then we're
All right, yeah,
You
17
had to bring that
rounds.
up, right?
Hey, 2 full days.
They
I
don't
got
call me
the
spin
call.
doctor for nothing.
I got the call at 11 o'clock at night, the second day of the draft, by the Cowboys, Bob Griffin, because they're in town, to want to sign me as a free agent. This was after the second day of the draft at 11 o'clock at night. So 17 rounds, sir, 452 plays. You want me to tell you who all the wide receivers were that got drafted before me?
I actually researched those bad boys, and hey, you are the
No
original
grudge.
number 88.
No grudge.
Well, with that, before we lose control again, we're going to take a quick break right here on the A&E show, right here on 1190 KFXR.
I'm done. I'm out of here. I did what I needed to do. I got Drew all hyped up.
That's why I say, you know, I don't want to be a coach, but just let me do the pregame